What's up, expats and travelers alike? I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere.
And I'm Kalie.
And welcome to our review preview show.
Today we're going to be talking about a trending video on our channel right now, which is with an expat who lives in Budapest.
That's right. And we will also give some shout outs to those who have commented on YouTube and Instagram.
Then we will review our latest video from our last Sunday and give you a preview of what video is coming up this weekend.
Yeah, so that's the format that we do. Let's get started with Budapest. We did an interview with Charlie from the UK who currently lives and works in Budapest. The interview was a little long, but he gives thorough information. Today we want to give you some highlights of things you should know before you move there, such as transportation, housing, and general cost of living.
Okay, so let's start with transportation and owning a car.
Okay.
Infrastructure in Budapest is great, and you definitely don't need a car in the city. Actually, it's not really convenient to own a car because you have to pay for car parks, which can be anywhere from 22,000 to 44,000 Hungarian forint per month, depending on your location, of course. If you decide to buy a car in Hungary, the full insurance and other costs such as road tax shouldn't be more than 73,000 or so per year.
That's right. Let me ask you a quick question. Would you want to purchase a car in Hungary?
We've been there as travelers, and I would say it's really not necessary. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm really conflicted about stuff like this because I think that a lot of cities in Europe are quite walkable and they're not super spread out. So buying a car, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a waste of money. Their public transportation systems are so different than the US for sure. But even Canada, Australia, yeah, it's really, really different. So if you're coming from an English-speaking country that doesn't have great public transportation, I would say give it a shot before you want to buy a car.
Right, and it really depends on where you are in Budapest. If you're downtown in the city area, you definitely don't need a car. If you're a little further out, maybe where you work or where you want to live, you might want a car for things like grocery stores and such, but it's, again, not really necessary because their public transportation system is really good.
True. Well, that moves us on to public transportation. It's quite easy and straightforward. A monthly pass for all modes of transportations runs just under 10K forint. Budapest is definitely a city made for walkers, though.
Right, definitely. Okay, let's move on for housing. For housing, it's now a little harder to find a wide range of apartments for a low price where it used to be like that. The best and easiest way to find a flat is to contact a variety of different real estate agents who can help you and help you find what you want. Now, the agents get their commission from the apartment owner. So because of this, most owners are only willing to rent long term. So expect to sign a contract that's at least a year.
Yeah, just get a bunch of agents, work with a ton. It's very different than in the US, for example. A temporary option, and I would really recommend this, is when you get there, just rent an Airbnb for a bit. Rent that and then start your search so you're not having to try to do that straight from the get-go. It's pretty common. All right, so let's break down the cost of living. For the most part, a single person can live comfortably in Budapest for around 170,000 forint per month. That's not including rent. So you got to take that into consideration. Rent, however, a 2-bedroom apartment in a central location in a good area in good condition starts at around 240,000 forint. Of course, you can expect to pay more for better location, newer appliances, and a larger space. Normally, all the costs are clearly stated.
Right, and that's something that's common. Obviously, if it's bigger, it's going to cost more. If it's in a good location, it's going to cost more.
Everywhere you go in the world.
Now, one unusual extra item that you need to take into consideration is something called a common cost. And this can be roughly around 16,000 K per month, depending on the building, and what that covers would be things like trash, recycling, cleaning, and electricity in the common areas. Newer apartment buildings, it'll be more, of course. For example, if you want a flat in the amazing Avenue Gardens on Andrassy Street, it has a monthly cost of $48,000, but it's because of the amenities. You have 24/7 concierge service. There's a spa, a pool, a gym, and so you're going to be paying for those amenities if that's something that you want. So take the amenities into consideration for that common cost before you get started. Now, when you view a flat, make sure to double check all the costs that are involved before you sign.
Yeah, and on top of the rent and common costs, you will also almost always have to pay your own electricity, gas, and water. These are separate bills given to you by the landlord or the agency. So plan anywhere between $37,000 to $55,000 for rent per month. Winter gas heating costs alone can sometimes hit $30,000 per month. When you move in, you usually need to put down 2 months deposit and 1 month rent in advance. Make sure you check everything when you move in and note it in your contract as needed. These are things that we would tell you about moving anywhere. Take pictures of the apartment and the appliances for when you check out. We did the same thing in Singapore to make sure that you get all of your deposit back.
Let's move on now to grocery stores and markets. Budapest has a wide variety of local markets, small shops, and then of course larger supermarkets. So if you have a car, you can drive to these bigger supermarkets, but every district pretty much has their own market.
Yeah.
Which is a good way to support the local communities as well, and it's generally cheaper, and then you get fresher produce, things like that. An average food cost would probably run someone around 16,000 forint for 2 people for several days. Of course, it depends on where you shop and what you get.
Numbeo is a great reference point for you guys if you want to use numbeo.com to check out prices on individual items. Let's talk about eating out. The alternative to dining at home, of course, is taking advantage of the many, many wonderful restaurants, cafes, bistros, and bars in the city. Avoid main touristy places as the set traditional menu is around $6,000 per person. Smaller restaurants can run you about $3,600 for a 3-course meal for 2 people. That's $1,800 per person for a delicious soup, a main, and a dessert. Bars are also still pretty cheap, with beers costing around $700 for a large glass. Of course, if you need to buy them from the supermarket, prices will be even lower. Hungarian sparkling wine costs around $1,100 per bottle, and a good bottle of wine starts from as little as $1,500. So that's like $3 or $4, guys.
There are also a lot of bakeries that are scattered throughout Budapest, so you can buy fresh bread every day if that's something that you want to do. You can also buy lots of different types of breads, anything from your normal white sliced bread to whole grain loaves. Of course, there are a lot of Hungarian treats as well, so you have things like longos, pastries, and cakes that you can get from these bakeries.
Yeah, you're in Europe, you got to hit up the bakeries, unless you're gluten-free, of course. They might have gluten-free options. Well, we hope that gives you a few highlights of life in Budapest as you prepare to move there or just consider it. Let's move on to our comments and shout-outs section.
On Instagram, we posted a picture of Chinatown in Washington, D.C. in the U.S., and we asked you where you think the best Chinatown is. So thank you, Jetlag and Mayhem, for your comment on there. You think that London has the best Chinatown. Well, what do you guys think? Comment below and give us your opinion. Where do you think is the best Chinatown in the world? Next up is a comment from Norm Lee that was on our Fiji video, which we talked about in our last review preview. And Norm Lee helps us with the pronunciation. We were saying Nadi of the city, but it's actually Nundi. So thank you for that. We always appreciate getting help with how to say different words in different languages. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, definitely helpful. And we got to ask a future interviewee, you guys will see that in a couple of weeks, about life in Fiji, and she actually pronounced it for us as well, among a few other words. So be on the lookout for that video, and we just want to thank Norm Lee for putting us on that. We have another comment from Catherine Oro, I hope I'm saying that last name right, on one of our Saudi Arabia videos. She said that this was an excellent and helpful video. Thank you both for the information. I would follow her advice because she sounds respectful and down to earth. Excellent job, guys. Thanks, Catherine, for the encouragement. We really appreciate that. It's always great to hear that a viewer finds our content helpful.
Wolfie Squad wrote on our Beirut vlog, "I'm Lebanese and I love it. We had such a great time in Beirut, even though we weren't there for very long. We were happy you liked the video, and we actually hope to see more of Lebanon one day, as many people have commented that we need to see more than just Beirut. So thanks for that comment."
And that video was a hit, but like half the people hated the way we depicted it. So you guys check it out. Let us know what you think. Lastly, we had a great dialogue on one of our expat interviews about Cairo. Brian Murphy said, I'm on my second week in Cairo. Don't think that 24,000 USD will cut it here, guys. Looked at a flat today with relatively Western specs, and it's $1,800 per month in rent for a 2-bedroom. Then Noon weighed in as an Egyptian and said $1,800 for rent is a scam. He recommended having an Egyptian friend or co-worker to help look for a broker. So keep in mind that for Cairo, there are lots of expats moving there for the oil industry. Some landlords hike up the price because they know these big oil companies will pay for it. I guess really the same thing kind of happens in Saudi. So when they see a Westerner, the price is high. There are plenty of apartments for reasonable prices though.
Right. A lot of oil companies will just pay for it, so that's why they can do that.
Yeah.
And no one gave great advice here to have an Egyptian or a coworker help you. And this is honestly great advice for most countries. Some countries are easy with housing, but for most, it's quite beneficial to have a local or a colleague assist you in this process. Now on to our review preview time.
Woo! Our video from last weekend was an interview with Kristin, owner of Poker Refugees and Traveling with Kristin. She has been an expat herself and currently assists expats with relocation. We focus on the best places in Central and Eastern European countries for expats, as well as the Baltic countries. Kristin is quite informative on the best job market, safety, best cost of living, and more. So you want to check out her video to get an idea of that part of the European continent for expats.
And then coming up this weekend, we have an interview with Bob, who is an expat in Mexico, and he owns an online magazine called Expats in Mexico, which helps those wishing to move to Mexico. His website covers everything you need to know before you move there and even while you're there. Things like visa process, cost of living, what to bring, and more. We go through a few of the main things in the interview, so you don't want to miss that and what he has to say. And you might think that going to Mexico is only for retired people or people wanting to retire, but he talks a little bit about how that's not necessarily true. And so you'll find that out in the video about Mexico coming up. And really it's for people from all different countries and all different walks of life who can move there, and it's quite doable.
Well, that is all for us this week. Don't forget to vote on our community page so we can put out content that you want. Keep us up with those comments and likes as well. Guys, we really just want to say that we do this to help build this community, get information out there to you all. So if you find it informative and helpful, share and subscribe. That will help our growth.
Until next week, bye.
Bye.